Flowers from Julia Roberts, phone calls and personal messages with Barbara Streisand, cheeky discussions about who was sexier, him or Tyra Banks, and an increasingly contentious relationship with President Trump. It's all part of the private inner life of Dr. Anthony Fauci, documented in a meticulously written diary. It dates back to the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, when Fauci served as the face of the government's public response. The writings were released by Senator Rand Paul, a longtime Fauci critic and foe, ahead of a Senate Homeland Security hearing tomorrow, in which the 85-year-old Fauci is set to testify under subpoena. The entries reveal a man clearly enamored with his growing fame, but the devil is in the details and in what Fauci knew and when he knew about the COVID-19 virus, and what exactly he was willing to share with the public. Fauci has long maintained that he believes the virus developed naturally in an open-air market in China, while also indicating he remains open to the possibility that the virus was developed in a lab and then leaked. But the diary entries show a more conflicted view, one in which Fauci acknowledged the market was likely not the source, but a, quote, amplifier. He also wrote that during at least one conference call with leading scientists from around the world, a majority of them told Fauci they favored the so-called gain-of-function lab origin theory. A lot to talk about here. Joining us now, NewsNation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh. Rich, you spoke exclusively with a prominent researcher and Fauci critic who's named in these diaries, again, meticulously kept. What's the takeaway here?
Hi, Anna. Well, the takeaway is that if you read any of these diaries or these documents, number one, you see that he was enamored or infatuated with his image in the media and the fame that came alongside it. But the takeaway from my reading of this and from the experts I've talked to is that what Fauci said in private was very, very different than what he said in public, and that had profound implications for millions and millions of people.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement.
That is a brazen lie, and it is a knowing, willful, brazen lie.
Dr. Richard Ebright, professor of biology at Rutgers, has testified before the Senate Homeland Security Committee on this issue. Says the documents in diaries released by Senator Paul are beyond damning for Anthony Fauci.
All of the documents show unequivocally, incontrovertibly, that the NIH funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan. Anthony Fauci funded the reckless research project in Wuhan that resulted in the creation of SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID. And that funding was provided in deliberate violation of U.S. government policies.
Ebright, who Fauci criticizes in his diaries, says the majority of Fauci's own advisors told him COVID-19 originated in a lab, and yet he went against this publicly.
The documents obtained from Fauci show that he knew as early as January of 2020 that a lab origin was likely, knew that his advisors, 10 of 12 of his handpicked advisors on a key telecon in February 1st of 2020, told him the virus had a lab origin based on its sequence and properties.
And I've been doing public interest work for almost 40 years now, and in my entire life, I have never seen obfuscation and misdirection by a federal agency worse than what the NIH has done.
Gary Ruskin is the executive director of the U.S. Right to Know, an independent public health research group. He's been investigating the origins of COVID-19 and what Fauci knew through hundreds of FOIA and public records requests.
It appears they were trying to obfuscate the ties between the NIH and the Wuhan Institute of Virology and any work that it may have done to help create the virus that causes COVID-19. In other words, they were trying to deny even the possibility that American tax dollars and American academic support was part of the reason why COVID-19 came into being.
Ebright lays the blame squarely on Fauci, then at NIH.
The CIA informed him in 2021 that their staff had determined the virus likely had a lab origin, interfered directly in the CIA process to make sure that that CIA determination did not get shown to President Biden, and interfered and obstructed and defrauded the American policymakers and American public and the global public about the origin of COVID.
Now, the release of these writings ahead of testimony certainly ups the ante for Anthony Fauci. He's set to testify tomorrow at 8:30 a.m., but both of these gentlemen that I spoke with, Ebright and Ruskin, doubt that he will answer these questions in any substantive way, but we shall see. Anna?
We will be watching. You're right. Rich McHugh, great reporting as usual.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.